This is Jen. Let's step into something new.
You want to know about the humans? Oh, where do I even start? Let me back up. My name is Crix, and I serve as the third administrative overseer for the Galactic Council's Diplomatic Reception Hall. That is a very fancy way of saying I am the alien who gets to watch other aliens mess up first contact scenarios. For 73 cycles I have seen it all. The Vorthians who accidentally declared war by offering the wrong colored fruit. The Planixians who showed up naked because they thought clothing was oppressive. The Krell who brought their pet which turned out to be a sentient species we had been searching for. But the humans? Oh no. The humans were something else entirely. It started 3 months ago, when we received their transmission. Standard stuff, really. Greetings from the people of Earth. We come in peace. We seek friendship among the stars. Blah blah blah. You have heard one first contact message. You have heard them all. The Council was thrilled, of course. New species meant new resources, new trade partners, new opportunities for exploitation. Sorry, I meant cooperation. Definitely cooperation. The transmission came with the usual data package. Biology, culture, history, that sort of thing. I was assigned to review it because apparently I have nothing better to do with my life, and at first glance, they seemed harmless. Bipedal, carbon-based, mid-range technology level. They had only just figured out faster-than-light travel. Cute, really, like watching a larva take its first steps. Their planet was listed as a Class 7 world. For those of you not familiar with the classification system, that is basically a death trap. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, aggressive wildlife, limited freshwater, active tectonics, and get this, they had something called weather that could literally kill you just by existing in the wrong place. Hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards. Their planet was actively trying to murder them on a daily basis. But here is the thing that made me laugh, actually laugh out loud in my office. The humans did not just survive this nightmare world. They thrived on it. They made it their playground. They had settlements in deserts where the temperature could cook you alive. They built cities on fault lines that regularly shook themselves apart. They lived on islands that got smashed by waves the size of buildings every single year, and they just kept coming back. I should have paid more attention to that detail. The Council set a date for formal first contact. 6 weeks from the initial transmission. Standard procedure. We would send our diplomatic envoy to meet theirs, shake appendages, sign some treaties. Everyone goes home happy. Simple, right? Wrong. So very, very wrong. The day arrived. I was stationed at Reception Bay 14, datapad in hand, prepared for another boring ceremonial meeting. The Council had sent Ambassador Velix, a Taurinian with impeccable credentials and the personality of stale nutrition paste, perfect for bureaucracy, terrible for anything requiring actual intelligence. Velix stood there in his ceremonial robes, flanked by 2 guards who looked about as intimidating as decorative plants. The human ship arrived on time. I will give them that, punctual little creatures. It was not a large vessel, maybe 40 meters long, sleek design, minimal weapons visible. Civilian transport, I assumed. Made sense for a diplomatic mission. The airlock cycled. We waited. The doors opened. And that is when my entire understanding of the universe decided to pack its bags and leave. 3 humans stepped out. Not shuffled, not walked, stepped. There is a difference. Each movement was precise, calculated, purposeful. They wore what I later learned were called suits. Black fabric, perfectly tailored, not a single wrinkle visible. White shirts underneath. Strips of colored cloth around their necks tied in elaborate knots. Ties, they called them. Why would you wear a decorative noose? I still do not understand, but it was not the clothing that made my breathing sacs clench. It was them. The one in front was female, tall by human standards, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the room in approximately 3 seconds. Her hair was pulled back in a style that screamed efficiency. She moved like water, smooth and inevitable. Her name tag read, Director Keen. To her left stood a male, shorter but broader, with pale skin decorated with small brown spots they call freckles. His hair was the color of rust and his smile was the kind that made you wonder if you had accidentally insulted his mother. His tag said Commander Drake. The third human on the right was another male, lean and tall, with medium-toned skin and hair so precisely cut it could have been measured with scientific instruments. He did not smile, he just watched. Evaluated. His tag read, Captain Frost. 3 humans. 3 apex predators wearing diplomatic costumes. Ambassador Velix stepped forward. His robes swishing importantly. He raised his primary appendages in the traditional Galactic Council greeting. His voice resonated with practiced diplomacy. "Welcome, representatives of Earth, to the Galactic Council. We are honored to meet you and extend our friendship to your species. I am Ambassador Velix of the Taurinian Collective, and I shall be your guide through the diplomatic process." Director Keene smiled. It was a beautiful smile, really. Perfect white teeth, slight crinkle around the eyes, conveying warmth and friendship. I immediately wanted to run away. "Ambassador Velix," she said, and her voice was smooth like expensive liquor. "The honor is entirely ours. Earth is thrilled to join the galactic community. We have so much to learn from you all." She extended her hand. A human greeting according to my datapad. Velix stared at it for a moment, confused. The human woman waited patiently, hand outstretched, smile never wavering. Commander Drake leaned in slightly. "You shake it," he said helpfully. "Grip, move up and down twice, release, basic greeting protocol." Velix grasped her hand awkwardly. She shook firmly, too firmly apparently, because Velix made a small squeaking sound and quickly pulled away, flexing his appendage with a pained expression. "Oh, I apologize," Director Keene said, and she sounded genuinely sorry. "I forget sometimes that our standard greeting can be a bit intense for other species. Occupational hazard. It is quite all right," Velix lied through his discomfort. "Shall we proceed to the conference room?" "Absolutely," Captain Frost said, his first words. His voice was flat, professional, and somehow conveyed that he had already identified 17 ways to kill everyone in the room if necessary. "Lead the way." We walked through the corridors of the diplomatic facility. I followed behind, taking notes, which was my job. Officially, unofficially, I was watching these humans with growing fascination and terror. They moved wrong. That is the only way I can describe it. Every species has a movement pattern, a rhythm to how they navigate space. Humans moved like they owned every room they entered. Their heads swiveled constantly, taking in details, exits, vents, security cameras, structural weaknesses. I watched Captain Frost's eyes track a maintenance panel for exactly 2 seconds before moving on. 2 seconds. That was all he needed. Director Keene made pleasant conversation with Ambassador Velix as we walked. She asked about Council history, member species, trade agreements, standard questions. But the way she asked them, each question was a probe, testing, measuring. She was not making small talk. She was gathering intelligence. Commander Drake stayed quiet, but his attention was on the guards. Our security personnel. He studied their weapons, their posture, their formations. At one point he caught me watching him watch them. He winked at me, actually winked. I nearly dropped my datapad. We reached conference room 7. A beautiful space. Really. High ceilings, large windows overlooking the station's central plaza, elegant furniture designed to accommodate multiple species. The council had spared no expense. We wanted to impress the new members. The humans were not impressed. They sat down at the conference table with the kind of casual confidence that suggested they had done this 1,000 times before. Director Keene folded her hands on the table. Perfect posture, pleasant expression. Commander Drake leaned back in his chair like he was at a casual lunch. Captain Frost sat motionless, hands resting on the table, eyes scanning. Ambassador Velarix activated the holographic display. It showed a standard welcome presentation. The Council's history, current membership, benefits of joining, responsibilities of members, etc., etc., etc. Boring but necessary. The humans watched politely. They asked appropriate questions. They nodded at the right moments. They were perfect diplomatic guests, and that was when I knew something was terribly wrong. Nobody is that good at first contact. Nobody. There is always confusion, miscommunication, cultural misunderstandings. It is inevitable. But these 3 humans navigated our bureaucratic presentation like they had written the script themselves. The presentation ended. Velix smiled his bureaucratic smile. "Do you have any questions about the council's structure or membership requirements?" "Just one," Director Keene said pleasantly. "Your military capabilities." The presentation mentioned mutual defense agreements but was rather vague on the specifics. "What kind of fleet strength are we talking about?" Velix blinked. That was not a typical first contact question. "Well, I am not authorized to discuss specific military details during initial diplomatic meetings." "Understandable," Director Keene said smoothly. "Let me rephrase. In the event of a hostile encounter with an external threat, what is the Council's standard response protocol?" Commander Drake jumped in before Velix could answer. "Also curious about your defensive perimeter." The data packet mentioned outlying systems but was light on actual strategic positioning. Do you maintain patrol routes, early warning systems, rapid response teams? Captain Frost added, still motionless, and your threat assessment criteria. How do you classify hostile entities? What triggers a military response versus a diplomatic solution? The three questions came rapid fire, one after another, perfectly coordinated. Velix looked like he had been hit with a stun blast. He stammered something about referring them to the military liaison office. Director Keen smiled again, that same beautiful, terrifying smile. Of course, we would not want to make you uncomfortable, Ambassador. We are just eager to understand how we can contribute to the Council's continued peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity. She said it like someone discussing the weather. Meanwhile, her companions had just conducted a tactical intelligence assessment disguised as polite curiosity. I was beginning to understand why Earth had survived on a Class 7 death world.
These were not diplomats.
Diplomats asked about trade routes and cultural exchanges. Diplomats worried about proper greeting protocols and seating arrangements. Diplomats were soft, pliable, easy to manipulate. These humans were predators evaluating a new hunting ground. The meeting continued for another hour. Standard treaty discussions, trade agreements, technology sharing protocols. The humans agreed to everything. Every single term. No negotiation, no pushback, no demands. They were the perfect diplomatic partners, which made them the most dangerous beings I had ever encountered. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Velix practically vibrated with satisfaction. He thought it had gone wonderfully. Poor, stupid Velix. He had no idea he had just invited apex predators into the galactic food chain. The humans stood. More handshakes, more pleasant smiles, more professional courtesy. As they walked toward the exit, Director Keen paused next to me. I had been trying to remain invisible, just another administrative functionary. But she turned, looked directly at me, and smiled. You have been taking excellent notes, she said. Very thorough. I clutched my datapad like a shield. Thank you, Director. It is my function. Crix, right? She had read my name badge in approximately 0.5 seconds. If you ever want to visit Earth, let me know. I think you would find it fascinating. I will consider that, I managed to say. She leaned in slightly, not threatening, just confidential. Between you and me, your security protocols have some significant vulnerabilities. Might want to mention that to someone important. Then she straightened, nodded politely, and walked away. I stood there, datapad trembling in my grip, watching three humans stride confidently out of the diplomatic facility. Earth had not sent diplomats. They had sent hunters, killers, warriors. They had just wrapped them in expensive suits and taught them which fork to use at dinner. And the Galactic Council had just welcomed them with open appendages. I needed a very strong drink. This was only the beginning. So remember how I said I needed a strong drink? Yeah, I had 3. They did not help. The next morning, I arrived at my office to find 17 new security protocols waiting for my approval. 17. In one night. Every single one addressed vulnerabilities that Director Keen had somehow identified during a casual 2-hour diplomatic meeting. Ventilation access points, surveillance blind spots, emergency lockdown procedures, perimeter breach protocols. I sat there, staring at my datapad, wondering how in the name of the void these humans had cataloged our entire security infrastructure, while smiling and nodding about trade agreements. My communication terminal beeped. Internal message from Ambassador Velix. Great. Just what I needed. More bureaucratic nonsense. Except it was not bureaucratic nonsense. It was a request for a full dossier on human military capabilities, strategic doctrine, and historical conflict patterns. Apparently someone higher up the food chain had actually watched the recordings from yesterday's meeting, someone with more than 3 functioning brain cells. I started digging. What I found made my blood run cold. Well, colder. I am already cold-blooded, but you get the idea. Earth's history was 90% warfare. Not skirmishes, not minor conflicts. Warfare. Total, absolute, civilization-ending warfare. They had fought with sticks and stones, then bronze and iron, then explosives and chemicals, then atomic weapons that could turn entire cities into ash, then biological weapons that could wipe out populations, then kinetic weapons that could crack planets, and through it all, through thousands of years of killing each other with increasingly creative methods, they had gotten very, very good at it. But here is the part that made me drop my datapad. They had stopped. Just stopped. Pulled back from the brink of self-annihilation, looked at their burning world, and decided to do something different. They had formed a unified government, dismantled most of their weapons, and turned their attention to the stars. Most species would call that progress, evolution, maturity. I called it terrifying. Because a species that chooses peace after mastering war is infinitely more dangerous than one that never learned to fight in the first place. They knew exactly what they were capable of. They had looked into the abyss, understood it completely, and decided to walk away. That takes a level of self-control and discipline that most species never develop. It also means they can walk back into that abyss anytime they want. My terminal beeped again. This time it was a request from the humans. They wanted a tour of Station Gamma 15. Our primary military research facility, for educational purposes of course. Cultural exchange, understanding Council defense technologies, all very reasonable sounding. I immediately forwarded it to Admiral Thex with a note that said, "Do not let them anywhere near sensitive areas, trust me." His response came back in under 60 seconds. Too late. They arrived an hour ago. Ambassador Velix approved it personally. I may have screamed a little. I grabbed my datapad and basically sprinted to the transport hub. Station Gamma 15 was only 20 minutes away by shuttle. I could get there, do damage control, maybe prevent a complete intelligence disaster. The shuttle ride felt like it took forever. I kept imagining Director Keen's pleasant smile as she casually memorized classified weapons specifications. Commander Drake's friendly demeanor while he assessed tactical weaknesses. Captain Frost's silent observation as he calculated attack vectors. I arrived at Station Gamma 15 in a state of controlled panic. The security officer at the entrance recognized me and waved me through without questions. Bless his lack of curiosity. I found Admiral Thex in the observation deck overlooking the main research floor. He was watching the humans with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Fear? No. Respect? Maybe. Concern? Definitely. "Tell me they have not been here long," I said, coming up beside him. 47 minutes. Thex replied without looking away from the floor below. "Want to know what they have done in that time? I really do not." "Too bad. I need someone else to confirm I am not hallucinating." He pointed at the research floor. Director Keen stood next to our lead weapons engineer, Dr. Plix, examining a prototype plasma rifle. She held it with practiced ease, checking the weight distribution, sight alignment, trigger mechanism. She asked technical questions, specific, detailed, expert-level questions. Dr. Plix answered enthusiastically, thrilled to have someone who actually understood his work. "She has military training," Thex said quietly. "Advanced weapons proficiency." I watched her field strip that rifle in under 30 seconds just to understand the internal mechanisms. "Director of what? Exactly," I muttered. "That is what I would like to know." Commander Drake was in the simulator bay with 3 of our tactical officers. They were running combat scenarios, boarding actions, ground assault, defensive positions, standard training exercises. Except Drake was not just participating. He was winning, against opponents who had trained their entire lives for military service. He moved like violence was a language he spoke fluently. "He is toying with them," Thox observed. "See how he keeps handicapping himself? No weapons, restricted movement, limited visibility. He is testing our soldiers' capabilities while making it look like friendly competition." Captain Frost was the worst. He had requested access to our strategic database. Just the public sections, of course. Historical conflicts, tactical analyses, fleet deployments, educational material that we shared with allied species all the time, except he was reading it at a speed that should have been physically impossible. His eyes tracked across the screen so fast it looked like he was just glancing at the information. But every so often he would pause, lean in and study a specific detail with laser focus, then move on. "Eidetic memory," Thex said, "has to be. He is downloading our entire military history into his brain. Can we stop him? On what grounds? He is accessing publicly available information. We gave him clearance, so we just let him memorize everything." Talus sighed. It was a heavy sound, full of resignation. "Crix, I have been in military service for 42 cycles. I have fought in 3 wars, commanded fleets, studied tactics and strategy my entire adult life. And in the last hour I have learned something important." "What is that?" "If humanity ever decides to stop being friendly, we are all completely screwed." We stood there in silence, watching 3 humans casually conduct the most effective intelligence-gathering operation I had ever witnessed. And they were doing it with permission, smiles, and polite thank yous. An alarm blared, Red lights flashed. The station's defensive systems activated automatically. What is happening? I grabbed Thex's arm. Proximity alert. Unknown vessels entering the system. He was already moving toward the command center. I followed because apparently I hate my own survival instincts. The command center was controlled panic. Officers rushing to stations, screens lighting up with tactical data, communication channels flooding with reports. Admiral Thex took his position at the central console. Status report, he barked. 6 vessels, sir. Configuration matches Krallich's radar patterns. They are demanding we surrender the station and transfer all research data. The Krallichs. Of course. Pirates, scavengers, general nuisances. They had been harassing Outer Council territories for months, always hitting lightly defended targets and running before military response could arrive. Time until Council fleet arrives? The Lox asked. 90 minutes at best, sir. And time until they are in firing range. 12 minutes. The X's face went through several interesting color changes. We had minimal defensive capabilities on a research station. A few turrets, basic shields, enough to hold off minor threats but nothing that could handle 6 armed raiders. The command center door opened. Director Keene walked in like she owned the place. Commander Drake and Captain Frost flanked her, faces serious. Admiral. Keene said calmly, we could not help but notice you have a situation developing. With all due respect, Director, this is a military matter. Please return to the secure areas. With all due respect, Admiral, she replied, and her smile was gone. Replaced by something sharp and dangerous. We can help. You are diplomats on an educational tour. Unless you have combat experience I am not aware of. It was phrased as a question but everyone in the room knew it was sarcasm. Director Keene's expression did not change. Admiral, before I became Director of Earth's Interstellar Relations, I spent 12 years in our Naval Special Operations. Commander Drake here has 16 years in Tactical Ground Forces. Captain Frost commanded our orbital defense platforms during the Martian conflict. The room went very quiet. The what conflict? Cass asked weakly. Long story, not important right now. Keene pointed at the tactical display. What is important is that you have 6 raiders with outdated weapons systems and predictable attack patterns about to engage a station with minimal defenses and civilians on board. We have contacted the Council fleet, Thex said, but he sounded less confident now. 90 minutes out, Captain Frost said flatly, reading the display upside down from across the room, you will be dead in 20. Unless, Commander Drake added, cracking his knuckles, you let us help. Vex looked at them, then at me, then at the tactical display showing 6 very hostile ships getting closer, then back at the humans. What exactly are you proposing? Director Keene's smile came back. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had just been given permission to do what they already wanted to do. We propose a demonstration of human problem-solving skills. What happened next would later be classified, analyzed, and used as a training scenario in every Council military academy. Captain Frost took over the communication station. His fingers flew across the controls with inhuman speed. He opened a channel to the Krallich's raiders. Attention Krallich's vessels. This is Captain Marcus Frost of the Earth Defense Directorate. You are in violation of Galactic Council territorial sovereignty. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and exit this system. The response came back immediately. Laughter, actual laughter. The Krallich's commander's face appeared on screen, all 4 eyes gleaming with amusement. Earth, never heard of it. Little human, you are in no position to make demands. Surrender the station or we open fire. Captain Frost did not blink. You were warned. He closed the channel, turned to Admiral Thex. I need control of your defensive turrets and communications array. Those turrets cannot stop 6 raiders, Thex protested. I do not need them to. Frost was already accessing the systems. I need them for targeting data. Meanwhile, Commander Drake had pulled up the station's internal layout. Keene, we have 4 maintenance shuttles in Bay 7. They have basic maneuvering thrusters, right? Adequate for what you are thinking, she asked. More than adequate. I had no idea what was happening. Admiral Thex looked equally lost. But we were out of options and out of time. He nodded. Do what you need to do. What they needed to do, apparently, was completely rewrite the book on asymmetric warfare. Commander Drake disappeared. Just left the command center at a run. Captain Frost's hands moved across the console like he was conducting a symphony of destruction. Director Keene calmly walked to the weapons control station and began making adjustments that our own weapons officers had not thought of. Sir, one of the tactical officers said nervously. The raiders are charging weapons. 60 seconds to firing range. Frost, Keen asked, not looking up from her console. Targeting solution uploaded to the turrets. Drake, you in position. Drake's voice came over the comm. Shuttle 1 prepped and ready. This is insane, by the way. Insane is what we do, Frost replied. Something that might have been humor flickered across his face. The Kralix ships entered firing range, their weapons lit up, preparing to tear through our shields and hull. And then things got weird. The station's defensive turrets opened fire. Not at the raiders, at empty space. Specific points in empty space, creating a pattern of plasma fire that looked completely random, until it was not. Commander Drake launched from the maintenance bay in a shuttle not designed for combat. He flew straight at the nearest Kralix raider, not in an attack run. Just straight at it, like he was planning to ram the ship. The Kralix commander must have thought he was suicidal. They did not even fire at him, just watched this tiny shuttle on what appeared to be a kamikaze trajectory. At the last possible second, Drake veered off, spinning the shuttle through a series of maneuvers that should have torn the small craft apart. But it did not. Instead, it passed through the exact points in space where Captain Frost's turrets had been firing. The plasma shots, perfectly timed, perfectly aimed, caught the raiders' shield generators just as Drake's shuttle passed by, using the shuttle's own mass to disrupt the targeting solutions the Kralix had locked on the station. The raiders' shields collapsed, not from damage, from confusion. Their systems could not compensate for the unpredictable variables. Director Keen fired the station's main defense cannon. One shot. Precise, calculated, aimed at the now unshielded raider's engine core. The raider exploded. The other 5 Kralix ships stopped laughing. 5 remaining, Captain Frost said calmly. Drake, ready for round 2. Born ready. They did it again, and again, and again, each time a different pattern, a different approach, a different impossible maneuver that should not have worked but did. Captain Frost calculated trajectories that our best computers could not match. Commander Drake flew like physics was merely a suggestion. Director Keen fired with accuracy that made our weapons specialists weep. 12 minutes later, all 6 Kralix raiders were either destroyed or fleeing at maximum speed. The command center was silent except for the gentle beeping of consoles. Admiral Thex sat down heavily in his chair. He looked at the 3 humans standing calmly amidst the chaos they had orchestrated. What? He said slowly. Are you? Director Keen straightened her suit jacket. Her professional smile returned. We are diplomats, Admiral, here for educational and cultural exchange. That, Thex pointed at the debris field on the tactical display, was not diplomacy. No, she agreed. That was a demonstration. Consider it Earth's application essay for Council membership. Commander Drake returned to the command center, slightly sweaty, but otherwise unharmed. Shuttle returned to the bay. Might want to check the maintenance logs, though. I may have exceeded some operational parameters. Exceeded? One of the officers squeaked. You pulled 17 geese in a vessel rated for 3. Drake shrugged. Human tolerances are different. Captain Frost had already returned to his research terminal like nothing had happened. Are we still cleared for the tactical database review, Admiral? I was in the middle of something interesting. I started laughing. I could not help it. Hysterical, slightly unhinged laughter. Everyone looked at me. Do you understand what just happened? I managed between gasps. Earth just auditioned for the Galactic Council by destroying 6 raiders with a maintenance shuttle and math. Also physics. Captain Frost added helpfully. Lots of physics. Admiral Thex rubbed his face with both hands. I need to make some calls. Many calls. Director Keen approached him, extending her hand again for that human handshake. We look forward to continuing our diplomatic relations, Admiral. This has been a very productive visit. The Quix shook her hand carefully, gently, like he was holding a live explosive, which I suppose he was. The humans left an hour later, after helping repair the minimal damage to the station and providing detailed tactical reports that would keep our military analysts busy for months. I walked them to their ship. Director Keen paused at the airlock. Crix, she said warmly, thank you for your hospitality. We truly appreciate the Council's welcome. You terrify me, I replied honestly. She laughed. It was a genuine warm sound. That is fair. But here is the thing you need to understand about humans, Crix. We are not trying to scare anyone. We are not looking for fights. We genuinely do want peace and friendship. But, I prompted, because there was always a but. But we spent 10,000 years learning how to survive on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to adapt, to fight, to win against impossible odds. We became apex predators because we had no choice. And now that we have the choice, she smiled. We choose to be friends. We choose diplomacy. We choose cooperation. However, Captain Frost added from behind her, we remain very, very good at the alternative. Consider it insurance, Commander Drake said cheerfully. We hope to never need it, but we absolutely have it. They boarded their ship. The airlock closed. I watched them depart, their sleek vessel disappearing into the black. Admiral Thex joined me at the observation window. We stood in silence for a long moment. So, I finally said, should we approve their council membership? Are you insane? Deketch turned to me. Of course we should. Do you want them as allies or as the alternative? Good point. 2 weeks later, Earth's application for Galactic Council membership was approved unanimously. The vote was not even close. Every single member species voted yes. Enthusiastically, because the galaxy had just learned something important. Earth did not send diplomats in suits. Earth sent apex predators who had learned to wear suits. They brought gifts of friendship and cooperation. They also brought the implicit understanding that angering them would be the last mistake you ever made. And honestly, I sleep better knowing they are on our side, though I still have nightmares about Director Keen's smile. The end.
Earth didn't send diplomats, they sent apex predators in suits. So, that is how humanity joined the galactic community. Not with weakness, but with strength wrapped in diplomacy. They proved that the deadliest predators are not the ones who roar the loudest, but the ones who smile while calculating every possible outcome. Sleep well, Galaxy.